The sky above New Terra colony glowed with 3 suns, casting golden light across the harvest festival. Children ran through fields of blue wheat, laughing and playing games, while their parents watched with proud smiles. The colony had been peaceful for 12 years since humans first settled this distant world. Captain Lisa Morgan stood on the orbital defense station looking down at the planet through the observation window. She watched the tiny lights of the festival far below and thought about her own daughter Maya, who was down there somewhere among the children. Lisa had no reason to worry. The defense sensors showed nothing unusual. Space around New Terra was empty and quiet, as it had been for months. Then the alarms screamed. Lisa spun toward her control panel as red warnings flooded every screen. Ships were appearing from nowhere. Massive vessels materializing in high orbit like ghosts, becoming solid. The Galactic Council enforcement fleet had arrived without warning, without permission, without any prior contact. Lisa tried to hail them, but received only a cold, automated response. The message stated that humans had violated containment protocols by expanding beyond approved borders. Lisa knew this was wrong. New Terra was well within human territory, as agreed in the settlement treaties. She tried to explain this, but the Council ships ignored her transmissions. On the planet's surface, the festival continued. No one knew what was happening above their heads. The Council fleet moved into formation with precision that spoke of countless battles. Their weapons began charging. Energy readings spiked across all frequencies. Lisa frantically sent evacuation warnings to the colony, but there was no time. The Council ships fired, but something went wrong. The weapons discharged wild, uncontrolled exotic radiation that scattered across the atmosphere like purple lightning. The energy swept over the festival grounds in waves that humans could not see but could feel in their bones. Children collapsed where they stood. 300 young ones from ages 4 to 14 fell as if strings had been cut. Parents screamed and ran to their children, but the little ones would not wake. Their eyes remained closed and their breathing shallow. Their minds had been scattered by alien energy that human doctors did not understand. Lisa watched in horror from orbit as medical teams swarmed the festival grounds. She demanded answers from the Council fleet. A single transmission came through. The voice was cold, mechanical, without emotion. It stated that regrettable accidents sometimes occurred when maintaining galactic order. The speaker said that acceptable losses were necessary for the greater good. The Council offered no apology beyond those empty words. Their ships turned and vanished back into the darkness between stars as quickly as they had come. Lisa stood frozen at her station. Below her, 300 human children lay in comas that no medicine could cure. The Harvest Festival had become a nightmare. Medical shuttles carried the unconscious children to the hospital, while parents wept and demanded answers that no one could give. Dr. Amber Hayes worked through the night examining the children. She found their neural patterns scrambled by energy signatures that should not exist in normal space. The Galactic Council had used weapons that violated every treaty humanity had signed, but the Council clearly did not care about treaties or human lives. Far across the galaxy, in a system where a red giant star was slowly dying, something else was watching. A ship sat in the shadow of a dead moon. Inside that ship stood a woman who looked almost human but was not. Her name was Elindra, and she had silver hair that fell past her waist. Her eyes were ancient, holding memories of civilizations that had risen and fallen before humans first looked up at the stars. Beside her coiled a creature of legend and nightmare. Ember was a dragon. Her scales shifted between red and gold like living flame. Her eyes glowed with intelligence that matched her companion. Together, they watched the news feeds from New Terra. Elindra had seen this before. She knew what the Council had done and why her hands clenched into fists as she watched human parents carry their sleeping children through hospital corridors. Ember raised her massive head and looked at her companion with understanding. The dragon knew what came next. They had waited so long for this moment, waited for a species strong enough to stand against the council, waited for warriors who would not bow when threatened, waited for parents who would burn the galaxy to ashes rather than accept the loss of their children. Elindra spoke a single word in a language older than the council itself: fools. She turned from the viewing screen and began preparing her ship. The coordinates for New Terra were already entered. Ember stretched her wings, even though they were inside the ship. The dragon could feel the coming storm. This was the moment they had prepared for across centuries of patient watching. The Galactic Council had ruled unopposed for 10,000 years. They had crushed 17 species who dared to expand beyond their assigned borders. 16 of those species had submitted and become slaves. One had resisted and been exterminated. The Council thought the pattern would continue forever. They thought humans would be like the others. They thought wrong. Elindra smiled, but there was no warmth in it. She had been waiting for this, waiting for the Council to make their fatal mistake, waiting for them to cross the line that could not be uncrossed. They had harmed human children. Now they would learn what humanity truly was. Now they would face the consequences of awakening something they should have left sleeping. The ship powered up with a hum that resonated through dimensions humans had not yet discovered. Ember settled into position for jump travel. Elindra took one last look at the dying star outside. Soon the Council would be the ones dying. Soon the galaxy would learn that some species could not be controlled. Soon humanity would teach the ancient powers a lesson written in fire and fury. The ship vanished, leaving only empty space and the dying star behind. On New Terra, the 300 children slept on. Their parents kept vigil beside hospital beds. Captain Lisa Morgan sent her report to Earth Command. She did not know that help was coming. She did not know about the elf woman and her dragon. She only knew that the Galactic Council had made a terrible mistake. They had hurt human children, and humanity would not forget, would not forgive, would not rest until justice was served. The war had begun. The Council just did not know it yet. Earth received the report from New Terra 3 days after the incident. The message traveled through quantum relay stations across light years of space. When the government officials read what happened, a silence fell over the council chambers. 300 human children in comas, the Galactic Council claiming it was an accident. Ambassador Katie Sullivan stood before the communication array and demanded an audience with the council. They made her wait 2 weeks before responding. When the council finally answered, their representative appeared on screen with an expression of bored irritation. Katie showed them images of the sleeping children. She showed them the neural scans. She showed them the weapon signatures that proved this was no accident. The council representative barely glanced at the evidence. He stated that the matter was closed. He said the council had already issued a formal statement of regret. He reminded Katie that humanity was a minor species with limited rights under galactic law. Then he terminated the connection. Katie stood alone in the empty communication room. Her hands shook with rage she could not express through proper diplomatic channels. The council had dismissed her. Dismissed 300 human children as if they were nothing. She sent her report to Earth Command with a single recommendation: prepare for war. But Earth Command had already begun preparations. Admiral Nicole Chen sat in the Strategic Planning Center, surrounded by holographic displays showing human military assets across known space. She had been coordinating with fleet commanders since the moment news arrived from New Terra. No formal declarations, no public announcements, no diplomatic protests that the council would ignore. Humanity was done talking. The military mobilized in complete silence. Ships that had been on patrol missions received new encrypted orders. Stations that had been monitoring trade routes quietly armed themselves with weapons that had been in storage. Special operations teams received activation codes they had trained for but never expected to use. Captain Megan Turner gathered her unit in a briefing room aboard the stealth ship Shadow Wind. Her team consisted of 20 soldiers who specialized in operations that officially did not exist. Megan showed them files on council officials who had authorized the attack on New Terra. She gave them one mission: hunt them down, make them answer for what they did, make the council afraid. Her team nodded in understanding. They were parents themselves. They understood what this mission really meant. Meanwhile, Dr. Amber Hayes continued working to save the children. She had made no progress with conventional medicine. The exotic energy that harmed them operated on principles human science barely understood. But Amber was not just trying to heal, she was also studying the weapon itself. If the Council could create such energy, then humanity could learn to recreate it, learn to weaponize it, learn to turn their own tools against them. In the outer colonies far from Earth, a strange ship appeared near a research outpost. The researchers detected it on their sensors but could not identify its design. It matched no known human or council configuration. Station Commander Lauren Price sent a standard hailing signal. The response came immediately. A woman who looked almost human appeared on their screen. Her silver hair and ancient eyes marked her as something else. She introduced herself as Alindra. She said she had information humanity needed, information about the Galactic Council. Lauren was suspicious but also curious. She granted the strange woman permission to dock. When Alindra entered the station, she was not alone. Behind her walked a creature that should not exist: Ember. The dragon had to fold her wings tight to fit through the airlock. The researchers stared in shock and wonder. Dragons were myths from old Earth stories. Yet here one stood breathing and real. Alindra gathered the station crew and told them things that made their blood run cold. The attack on New Terra was not an accident. It was a test. The Council wanted to see if humanity would submit or resist. They had done this 17 times. Before 16 species had submitted after similar incidents, those 16 became vassal races serving the Council without question. One species had resisted. That species was exterminated down to the last individual. Or so the Council believed. Alindra revealed that she was from that 17th species. She and Ember were the last survivors. They had hidden for thousands of years, waiting for another species strong enough to challenge the Council, waiting for warriors who would not bow. The researchers listened in stunned silence. Lauren asked why Alindra would help humanity. The elf woman smiled sadly. She said she had watched 17 species face this test, watched 16 kneel and one die. She was tired of watching, tired of hiding, ready to fight alongside anyone brave enough to stand against the Council. She offered humanity something precious: knowledge. Ancient knowledge about the Council that they had tried to erase from history, blueprints for weapons that predated their empire, information about backdoors in their computer systems, locations of hidden facilities, names of officials who gave orders. Everything she had gathered across millennia of patient watching. Lauren immediately contacted Earth Command Admiral Nicole Chen herself, arrived within days to meet with Alindra. The two women studied each other carefully. One human military leader hardened by years of service. One ancient survivor carrying the memories of a dead civilization. They understood each other perfectly. Both wanted the same thing: justice for the children who had been harmed, vengeance against those who thought themselves untouchable. Alindra shared her files with human military intelligence. What they learned changed everything. The weapon used on New Terra was not designed to kill. It was designed to harvest. The Council had been stealing consciousness from children across the galaxy for thousands of years. Young developing minds held unique neural patterns. Those patterns could be extracted and used to power artificial intelligence systems. The Council had built their entire empire on the stolen thoughts and dreams of children. 300 human children on New Terra. thousands from the 16 vassal species, millions across galactic history. All of them drained to feed machines that helped the Council maintain control. When Admiral Nicole learned this truth, she made a decision. Humanity would not just fight the Council. Humanity would tear them down completely, would expose their crimes to every species in the galaxy, would free every consciousness they had stolen. Captain Megan Turner and her team deployed on their first mission. They struck a Council supply depot on a remote moon. No warnings, no mercy. The depot burned and Council soldiers died, never understanding what hit them. Across the galaxy, similar strikes began happening, small human teams appearing like ghosts, destroying Council assets, capturing Council personnel, vanishing before reinforcements arrived. The Council was confused. They sent angry messages to Earth demanding explanations. Earth government replied with a simple statement: "Stop harming our children." The Council laughed at this. They had crushed greater civilizations than humanity. They would crush these upstarts too, but they had never faced an enemy like this. Never faced warriors who fought not for territory or resources, but for their children. And they had never faced Alindra and Ember, the ancient survivors who knew all their secrets. The war was spreading. The hunt had begun, and the Galactic Council was about to learn what humans became when you made them truly angry. The hunting campaign spread across Council space like wildfire. Human strike teams operated in cells of 5 to 10 soldiers. Each team moved independently, following their own targets. Captain Megan Turner led Alpha Team through the shadows of a Council military station orbiting a gas giant. They had tracked Council Officer Varn to this location. Varn had signed the authorization for the New Terra attack. Now he would answer for it. Megan and her team moved through maintenance corridors wearing stolen Council uniforms. Their faces were hidden behind holographic masks that made them look like common station workers. Security cameras saw nothing unusual. Automated systems registered authorized personnel. The team reached Varn personal quarters at shift change when corridors were most crowded. 2 soldiers disabled the door locks, while 3 others created a distraction down the hall. Megan entered Varn room with her weapon ready. The Council officer looked up from his meal in surprise. Before he could activate any alarms, human soldiers had him restrained. They carried him out through the maintenance corridors the same way they had entered. The station security never knew he was gone until morning. By then, Alpha Team and their prisoner were 3 star systems away. Similar operations happened across the Galaxy Council. Officials vanished from secure facilities. Important shipments disappeared in transit. Communication relays went offline. Supply lines were disrupted. The Council tried to respond, but they could not find the enemy. Human ships used stealth technology the Council had not encountered before. Human soldiers fought with tactics that seemed random but were carefully coordinated. Most importantly, humans were not trying to conquer territory. They were trying to cause fear, and it was working. Council officials began requesting additional security. Some refused to travel without armed escorts. A few resigned their positions, claiming health reasons. The mighty Galactic Council that had ruled for 10,000 years was becoming afraid of a species they had dismissed as insignificant. The Council leadership finally took the threat seriously. They called an emergency session and voted to send their enforcement legions. These were elite soldiers who had crushed rebellions on 100 worlds. The Council was confident these troops would end the human insurgency within weeks. But the enforcement legions had never fought an enemy like humanity, and they had never faced Alindra and Ember. The dragon and her companion joined human forces for a major operation. The target was a Council research facility on an ice world called Frost. Deep intelligence reports indicated this facility housed records about the consciousness harvesting program. Colonel Laura Mitchell commanded the assault force. She had 200 Marines and a Lindra ship. The plan was simple: hit hard, hit fast, get the data, and leave before reinforcements arrived. The assault began at dawn. Human dropships descended through freezing storms, while Ember flew alongside them. The dragon was magnificent. In flight, her wings spread wide, catching winds that would have torn apart lesser creatures. Council defense systems locked onto the incoming ships. Automated weapons fired streams of energy into the sky. But Ember moved through the barrage like a dancer. Energy beams passed through empty space where she had been moments before. She reached the defense towers first. The dragon opened her mouth and breathed fire that burned in the frozen air. But this was no ordinary flame. Ember fire was quantum energy that could exist in any environment. It consumed the defense towers, melting metal and fusing circuits. The automated weapons fell silent. Human Marines landed and stormed the facility council. Soldiers tried to mount a defense, but they were overwhelmed. Laura led her troops through the corridors, following the map Elindra had provided. They found the data storage center deep underground. Dr. Crystal Webb was with the assault team. She was a computer specialist who understood council systems better than most humans. Crystal connected her equipment to the facility mainframe and began downloading everything files about the consciousness harvesting program, records of which officials knew about it. Technical specifications for the extraction devices, lists of all the victims across thousands of years. The data was massive, but Crystal work was thorough. While she downloaded, Laura troops held the perimeter. Council reinforcements were arriving faster than expected. Enemy dropships landed outside the facility. Enforcement Legion soldiers poured out wearing heavy armor. These troops were professional warriors enhanced with cybernetic implants. They moved with precision and discipline. The human Marines found themselves in a serious fight, but they had Ember. The dragon launched herself at the council forces. Her claws tore through armor like paper. Her tail smashed soldiers aside. Her fire consumed entire squads. The Enforcement Legion had fought many battles, but never against a creature from myth. They fell back in confusion. Inside the facility, Crystal completed her download. She signaled Laura that they had everything. The Marines began withdrawing in organized groups covering each other. A Lindra ship descended to provide covering fire. The strange vessel weapons were unlike anything Council forces had seen. Energy that bent space itself. Projectiles that phased through shields. Technology from before the Council age of dominance. The human force extracted successfully. They left Frost deep with the data and only minor casualties. The Council had lost an important facility, and worse, had lost their secrets. Back at Human Command, Admiral Nicole reviewed the downloaded files. What she found made her physically sick. The consciousness harvesting was worse than anyone had imagined. The Council had not just been stealing from children. They had been running experiments, testing how much consciousness could be extracted before death. Studying which species produced the most useful neural patterns, recording the screams of parents who tried to protect their young. The files showed 300 human children from New Terra were scheduled for deep harvesting. Their comas were preparation. In 2 months, Council ships would return to extract their consciousness fully. The children would die, but their minds would power. Council machines. Forever. Nicole immediately forwarded this information to every human military unit. She sent copies to allied species who might listen. She made sure everyone understood what the Council truly was. Not wise leaders, not benevolent rulers, not keepers of galactic peace. They were predators feeding on the young. Meanwhile, Aelindra continued sharing her knowledge. She taught human engineers how to build better weapons. She showed strategists where the Council kept their most valuable assets. She revealed the locations of other facilities like Frost, Deep. Most importantly, she explained the Council's greatest weakness. Their artificial intelligence systems required constant input from harvested consciousness. If those systems could be disrupted, the entire Council infrastructure would collapse. Dr. Amber Hayes worked with the data from Frost. Deep. She finally understood how the extraction technology worked, and if she understood how it worked, she could reverse it. She could build a weapon that would restore stolen consciousness instead of taking it, a weapon that would free the minds trapped in council machines, a weapon that would bring the 300 children home. Amber began designing the device immediately. She would need rare materials, she would need advanced manufacturing, she would need time, but humanity would give her whatever she needed, because 300 children were still sleeping, still waiting to wake up, still needing their parents. The war intensified. Human forces struck deeper into Council territory. Alindra and Ember fought alongside them. The mysterious elf woman and her dragon became legends. Council soldiers told stories of the silver-haired warrior who knew their every secret. They whispered about the dragon whose fire could not be extinguished. They began to fear, and fear made them make mistakes. The Galactic Council finally understood they were not fighting a minor species. They were fighting something that might actually defeat them, something that would never stop, never surrender, never forgive what had been done to human children. The Council marshaled their full military might. They prepared for total war. They did not know it was already too late. Humanity had learned their secrets, built the weapons needed to defeat them, found allies who knew how to hurt them. Most importantly, humanity had found purpose, a cause worth any sacrifice. The children sleeping on New Terra, and all the other children across the galaxy who had been stolen, who had been used, who deserved to come home. The final battle was coming. The Galactic Council assembled the largest war fleet in modern history. 2,000 warships gathered at the staging point beyond human space. Battle cruisers the size of small moons, carriers holding thousands of fighter craft, destroyers armed with weapons that could crack planets. The Council's Supreme Commander stood aboard the flagship watching his armada through the observation deck. He was confident this overwhelming force would crush humanity within days. The fleet began moving toward human territory. Their destination was the Threshold, a strategic jump point that opened directly toward Earth. If the Council controlled the Threshold, they could strike at the human homeworld. Admiral Nicole Chen knew the Council was coming. Human intelligence had been tracking their fleet buildup for weeks. She gathered every available ship humanity could spare. 300 warships assembled at the Threshold. It was everything humanity had. Every carrier, every battleship, every destroyer and frigate against 2,000 Council vessels. It seemed hopeless, but Nicole had advantages the Council did not know about. She had Alindra knowledge. She had Ember power. She had Dr. Crystal Webb new weapon system, and she had human warriors who fought for their children. The human fleet took defensive positions around the Threshold. Ships formed a layered formation that would force the Council to fight through multiple lines. Alindra's ship positioned itself at the center where Ember could reach any part of the battlefield. Crystal weapon systems were installed on key vessels. These devices could disrupt the Council AI networks. They could restore stolen consciousness. They could turn the Council technology against itself. The battle preparations took 3 days. Families on Earth said goodbye to their loved ones. Everyone knew this might be humanity' last stand. If they lost here, the Council would exterminate humanity like they had exterminated Alindra species. But if humanity won, if they could break the Council here, everything would change. On New Terra, the 300 children still slept in their hospital beds. Parents kept vigil beside them. Dr. Amber Hayes continued working on her restoration device. She was so close to finishing it. Just a few more days. The children just needed a few more days. The Council fleet arrived at the Threshold. 2,000 warships dropped out of hyperspace in a coordinated arrival. The sight was terrifying. The Council vessels filled the space around the jump point, their weapons powered up, creating energy readings that blazed across every sensor. The Council commander sent one final transmission to Admiral Nicole. He demanded humanity immediate surrender. He promised that if humanity yielded now, only their military would be punished. The civilian population would be allowed to survive as a vassal species. Nicole's response was brief. She told him to look at his sensor readings to see the 300 human ships that refused to run, to understand what humanity became when you harmed their children. Then she gave the order to fire. The battle began. Human ships launched everything they had. Missiles streaked through space by the thousands. Energy weapons carved lines of destruction through the darkness. Railguns fired projectiles at a fraction of light speed. The Council fleet responded with overwhelming firepower. Their ships had superior weapons and stronger shields. The first exchange destroyed 20 human vessels, but humanity did not retreat. They pushed forward. Admiral Nicole watched from her command ship as the battle developed. She saw her forces taking heavy losses, but she also saw the plan working. Human ships were drawing the Council fleet into a specific formation, pulling them away from their defensive positions, clustering them together, setting them up for what came next. Ember launched from Elindra's ship. The dragon flew into the heart of the battle council. Sensors detected her but could not classify what she was. Weapon systems tried to lock onto her. But Ember moved through three-dimensional space in ways that should not be possible. She reached the council flagship. The massive warship tried to shoot her down. Point defense weapons fired streams of energy. Ember breathed her quantum fire. The flame washed over the flagship shields, then passed through them. The Council shields were designed to stop physical and energy weapons. They were not designed to stop fire that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Ember flame consumed the flagship bridge. The Council's supreme commander died without understanding what killed him. The flagship listed dead in space. Chaos spread through the Council formation. Ships tried to track the dragon, but she was already gone. Already moving to her next target, Elindra watched from her ship with cold satisfaction. She had waited so long for this, waited to see the Council face something they could not defeat. Her hands moved across her control systems. She activated the ancient weapons her ship carried. Technology that predated the Council rise to power. Energy that bent the laws of physics in ways modern science had forgotten. Her shots tore through Council formations. Each blast disabled multiple ships. Meanwhile, crystal weapons activated across the human fleet. These devices sent specific signals into Council ship networks, signals that targeted the AI systems, the artificial intelligence controlling Council weapons and shields. The intelligence powered by stolen consciousness. The signals disrupted those systems. Council ships found their targeting computers failing, their shields flickering, their coordination breaking down. But more than that, the harvested consciousness began responding. Thousands of stolen minds trapped in Council machines, children from 17 species across thousands of years. They felt the restoration signal, felt themselves being freed. Some died in the process, their consciousness too damaged to survive, but others held on. Others fought to return to bodies long dead. Others screamed their rage through the Council networks. The Council fleet fell into complete chaos. Ships collided with each other. Weapons fired at random AI systems crashed. The commanders tried to regain control, but their technology was betraying them. Human forces pressed their advantage. Nicole ordered all ships to push forward, to close with the enemy, to turn this into the kind of brutal close-quarters fight where courage mattered more than numbers. Human pilots flew their fighters into Council carrier bays. Marines boarded enemy capital ships. Captains rammed their damaged vessels into Council targets. It was savage. It was desperate. It was glorious. Captain Megan Turner commanded a boarding team that seized a Council heavy cruiser. Her Marines fought through corridors against Enforcement Legion soldiers. Both sides took heavy casualties. But the humans had something the Council troops did not. They had fury. They had purpose. They had the faces of 300 sleeping children burned into their memories. Megan's team reached the cruiser engineering section. They planted charges that would overload the power core. Then they fought their way back to their boarding craft. The cruiser exploded as they cleared the blast radius. One more Council ship destroyed, one more victory for humanity. The battle raged for 18 hours. Ships died on both sides. Thousands of warriors fell, but slowly, steadily, the Council fleet was losing. They had numbers, but humanity had heart. They had weapons, but humanity had Ember. They had experience, but humanity had Elindra. Commander Ashley Brooks led a ground assault team to the Council command station, orbiting nearby intelligence. Reported this station housed one of the main consciousness storage facilities. Ashley and her Marines stormed the station, fighting through automated defenses. They reached the central chamber. Inside, they found thousands of cylinders containing harvested consciousness, energy trapped in quantum bottles, minds stolen from children across the galaxy. Ashley team connected crystal restoration device directly to the storage system. Dr. Amber Hayes had designed it for exactly this moment. The device activated. Energy surged through the chamber. The restoration field expanded, reaching out to every consciousness stored there. On New Terra, something impossible happened. 300 children opened their eyes, all at the same moment. Parents who had kept vigil for weeks cried with joy. The children were confused. They did not know how long they had been asleep, but they were awake, they were whole, they were home. Across the galaxy, the same thing happened. Vassal species found their stolen children returned, consciousness that had been trapped for decades, suddenly free. The Council had built their empire on stolen minds. Now those minds were coming home. The battle at the threshold ended with Council defeat. Of 2,000 warships, only 300 survived. They retreated in disorder. Humanity had won, but the victory came at terrible cost. Of 300 human ships, only 90 remained. Thousands of warriors had given their lives. Admiral Nicole stood on her damaged command ship, looking at the wreckage floating in space. She thought about the children waking up on New Terra, about the families reunited, about the price paid for justice. It was worth it. Every sacrifice, every loss, every life given. It was all worth it because humanity had proven something. Proven that some species would never kneel, never submit, never forgive those who harmed their children. The Galactic Council was broken. Their fleet scattered, their crimes exposed, their empire crumbling, but the war was not over yet. One final step remained. The Council leaders themselves, still alive on their homeworld, still unpunished for what they had done. Admiral Nicole sent a message to all human forces. The message was simple. Finish it. The Council homeworld was a fortress planet, surrounded by defense stations. Even after their fleet defeat, the Council leaders believed they were safe behind those defenses. They had retreated to their ancient seat of power, the planet where their empire had begun 10,000 years ago. Admiral Nicole led the remaining human fleet toward that world, 90 warships, against planetary defenses that had never been breached. But Nicole was not planning a conventional assault. She had Elindra. The elf woman knew secrets about the Council homeworld that even current Council members had forgotten. She knew about maintenance tunnels built into the defense grid. She knew about backdoors in the security systems. She knew exactly how to hurt them where they were weakest. The human fleet approached openly. Making no attempt at stealth, the Council defense stations locked weapons on them. Automated systems demanded identification. Admiral Nicole transmitted a message on open channels. She listed the crimes of the Galactic Council: the consciousness harvesting, the exterminated species, the enslaved races, the 300 human children who nearly died. She demanded the Council leaders surrender to face justice. The response was predictable. The defense stations opened fire, but the human ships scattered. They had no intention of fighting those defenses directly. Instead, small teams launched in stealth pods. Heading for the weak points, Elindra had identified. Captain Megan Turner led one team, Commander Ashley Brooks led another, Colonel Laura Mitchell commanded a third. Each team had a specific target, a specific defense station, a specific way to disable the planetary shields Ember flew with them. The Dragon moved through space without a ship, her quantum nature allowing her to exist in vacuum. She was magnificent and terrifying. A creature of legend attacking the most defended world in the galaxy. The teams infiltrated the defense stations, moving through maintenance tunnels, wearing stolen access codes. Following maps that Elindra had kept hidden for thousands of years, they reached the control centers. Council security forces tried to stop them. Firefights erupted in corridors and command rooms. Marines died defending their teammates. Officers fell protecting vital systems. But humanity kept pushing forward. Megan Team seized control of Defense Station. 7 Ashley Team took Station 12. Laura forces captured Station 3. The pattern repeated across the defensive grid. One by one, the stations fell to human control. Admiral Nicole watched from her command ship as the planetary shields began failing. Gaps opened in the defense network, holes that her ships could exploit. She gave the order. The human fleet moved in, not to bombard the planet, not to destroy cities, but to deliver one final message, that the Council age was over. On the planet's surface, panic spread through the capital city, the Council chambers where leaders had ruled for millennia. Those leaders watched their defenses crumble, watched human ships entering orbit, watched their empire fall apart. They tried to flee but found their ships disabled, tried to call for help, but found their allies abandoning them. The 16 vassal species had learned what the Council had done to their children. Those species wanted no part of defending such monsters. Some even joined humanity, sending their own forces to help bring the Council leaders to justice. The Council was alone, abandoned by those they had ruled, surrounded by those they had wronged. Elindra's ship landed in the capital city plaza. She walked out with Ember beside her. Citizens fled in terror from the Dragon Council. Security forces surrounded them, but none dared open fire. They could feel the power radiating from both figures. Elindra walked through the empty streets toward the Council chambers. Human Marines secured the building. Admiral Nicole arrived with her command staff. Together, they entered the ancient hall where the Council had met for 10,000 years. The Council leaders sat in their high seats, trying to maintain dignity even in defeat. 12 beings from different species, all of them old, all of them responsible. Admiral Nicole stood before them. She did not shout, did not rage. She simply spoke the truth. She told them about the 300 human children, about the stolen consciousness across the galaxy, about the species they had enslaved, about the civilization they had exterminated. She told them it was over. The Council leaders tried to argue, tried to claim authority, tried to invoke ancient laws and traditions. Elindra laughed. It was not a pleasant sound. She stepped forward and removed her hood, revealing her true appearance. The Council members gasped. One of them recognized her, called her by her species name, a name that should have been extinct. Elindra confirmed their fears. She was indeed from the 17th species, the one the Council claimed to have destroyed completely. She had survived, witnessed their crimes, waited for someone strong enough to challenge them, and now she would see them face justice. The trials began. Immediately. Not secret tribunals, not hidden proceedings. Everything was broadcast across the galaxy. Every species could watch, could hear the evidence, could see the Council members unable to deny their crimes. The harvesting facilities were opened to inspection. The storage chambers revealed. The records made public. Species after species came forward, confirming that their children had vanished, that the Council had taken them, that they had been too afraid to resist. Until now, the 16 vassal species rose in rebellion, declaring independence, reclaiming their freedom, building new governments, no longer slaves, no longer silent. The Council leaders were found guilty, sentenced to exile on a barren world, stripped of technology, stripped of power, left to survive with only basic tools. It was more mercy than they deserved, but humanity chose justice over vengeance. The galaxy began to change. Admiral Nicole proposed something revolutionary. A true council where every species had equal voice, where decisions required consensus, where no species could harvest another, where children were protected above all else. It was messy, it was complicated, it was imperfect, but it was fair. The new Galactic Assembly held its first meeting in neutral space. Representatives from hundreds of species attended. They argued and debated, but they also listened. They also compromised. They also built something better than what came before. Elindra addressed the assembly. She told her story fully, named the 16 species who had submitted, named the one who had resisted, honored the dead, warned the living. She spoke about the cost of submission, about the price of resistance, about the value of courage. She looked directly at the human delegation, told them they had shown the galaxy what was possible, reminded them never to lose that strength. Then she and Ember prepared to leave. Admiral Nicole asked where they would go. Elindra smiled. She said the universe was vast, that there were other galaxies, other civilizations, perhaps other councils that needed to fall. She had work to do. But first, she had a gift for humanity. She gave Nicole coordinates, the location of her species, hidden archives, knowledge from countless civilizations, technology from before the Council Age, history that had been erased, all preserved, all waiting, all now belonging to humanity. Captain Lisa Morgan received command of the first deep space exploration fleet. Her mission was to find those archives, to bring that knowledge home. She stood on the bridge of her new ship, looking out at the stars, thinking about everything that had happened. Her daughter Maya came to the bridge. The little girl who had been one of the 300. Now awake and healthy. Maya hugged her mother, whispered something Elindra had told her before leaving. Never let them make you small. Lisa smiled. Those words would become humanity motto, their reminder, their promise to the galaxy, that humanity would never kneel, never submit, never forgive those who harmed their children. The exploration fleet launched, heading into unknown space. Behind them, the galaxy was healing. The vassal species were free. The stolen consciousness had been restored. The children were safe. All because the Galactic Council had made one terrible mistake. They had harmed human children, and humanity had shown them the consequences. Elindra's ship vanished into the depths of space. Ember silhouette visible against a distant nebula. The dragon and her companion, legends now, heroes to some, ghosts to others, but always remembered as the ones who helped humanity. When humanity needed it most, years passed. The new Galactic Assembly grew stronger. Trade flourished between species. Old wounds began healing. Children grew up free. On New Terra, they built a memorial, 300 names carved in stone. The children who had been harmed, who had survived, who had been the reason humanity went to war. Maya visited that memorial with her mother. Read the names, including her own. She asked if it was worth it. All the fighting, all the death, all the sacrifice. Lisa looked at her daughter, healthy and whole and free. She answered, simply, yes. Every sacrifice was worth it, because humanity had learned something precious, that some things matter more than safety, more than peace, more than survival itself. Family matters, children matter, justice matters, and a species that understands this, that will fight for it, that will never compromise on it, that species can never truly be defeated. The galaxy had learned this lesson, learned it from humanity, learned it from 300 sleeping children who woke up to find their parents had moved the stars themselves to bring them home. The story ended, but humanity's story was just beginning, with a galaxy to explore, with allies to help, with children to protect, with a dragon promise. Never let them make you small, and humanity never would.